I always knew that I had Henry Ford's blood in my veins.
Cousins Donald Murphy and Michael O'Regan were convinced of a connection to the famous industrialist Henry Ford, whose family emigrated from West Cork.
I believe my grandfather was a second cousin of Henry Ford.
Family lore has it that their grandfather sent a photograph to Henry, asking if they were related. Henry replied, but the cousins have never seen the letter. Our genealogy expert John investigated Henry Ford's Irish connections to prove the cousins had a link to this famous man.
Henry Ford was one of the richest, most famous men of his time. He was an engineer, an entrepreneur, an industrialist. He founded one of the greatest business empires the world has ever seen.
Ford's high wages and low production costs are said to have created the American middle class. Ford changed industrial mass production and distribution forever. Indeed, some would say Henry Ford changed the world.
We pieced together what is known to establish if there was a definite link between the two cousins and Henry Ford. All roads lead to West Cork, between the townland of Ballinascarty and the nearby town of Clonakilty.
This is where the Ford home once stood, where Henry Ford's great-grandfather, his grandfather, and his father William all lived.
Henry's great-grandfather William Ford and his wife Rebecca were tenant farmers here. They leased 30 acres of land from their landlord William Bence Jones on what is now the Lissalan estate. William died young, leaving Rebecca with 6 children. In 1832, Rebecca's eldest two, lured by opportunity, emigrated to America, buying farmland outside Detroit. 15 years later, back in Ireland, the famine was at its height, and West Cork was one of the worst hit areas.
Rebecca and her remaining children, along with all of their children, set sail from Cove in search of prosperity and to rejoin their family in the New World.
In 1863, Henry Ford was born in Michigan.
From a young age, Henry showed an interest in engineering. He tinkered with a pocket watch his father gave him and was soon fixing the watches of friends and neighbours. He was fascinated by the power of steam and began to carry out experiments at home and in school. At the age of 16, he left the farm and made his way to Detroit, where he found work as an apprentice machinist.
In 1903, Henry set up the Ford Motor Company, and 5 years later he unveiled the famous Model T car. In 1917, he came to Cork.
Henry Ford never forgot his Irish ancestry. The first Ford foundry outside America was established right here in Cork City. It would change the economic and social face of Cork completely.
Quite simply, Ford changed millions of lives and altered the industrial world forever.
It's no wonder that Michael O'Regan wants his family to be part of that legacy.
While Ford's place in history and family connections to Ireland are not in doubt, the question for Michael O'Regan is whether his family's part of that story.
Let's start off from what you know. You know that your grandfather George was the son of a Robert Ford, who was the son of a Stephen Ford and his wife Jane.
Yes.
Okay? And that would be sometime in the 1820s. The problem is, church records would be the only source of information for that period. And of course, the church records for the area were all destroyed in 1922. End of story. No, not quite. You know that Stephen Ford married Jane. You don't know her surname. On the other side of the Atlantic, the Ford family, as you saw, they were very proud of their Irish heritage. They kept a tradition that there was a Stephen Ford in the family. If we have a look at the family tree,
Jane Hickson, yeah, that's
you
the
see,
one there.
this is Henry Ford's grandfather, John Ford, had a brother, Stephen Ford.
Ford, yeah.
We found a marriage licence bond of a Stephen Ford to a Jane Hickson, something that wasn't in the Public Record Office and survived. So on their side, there's a tradition that Stephen married a Miss Hickson. On your side, you know that Stephen married a Jane.
Right.
Almost certainly, without fear of contradiction, you are connected to Henry Ford.
I was right.
Well, welcome to the family.
I was right.
Well,
I was right.
congratulations.
I'm over the hill because I always believed in it, and now I can say I was right.
This is the first time that we've actually seen absolute evidence. O'Coid Starul is sure this is indeed a historic occasion.
The excitement on hearing this news didn't stop there for the delighted cousins. A car-shaped surprise was waiting outside for them. Members from the Cork Model T Club had come to see Michael and Donal to celebrate their newfound genetic link to the great man himself, Henry Ford.